Marc Daniels isn't here. Doesn't mean there's no beat of sports. Filling in for Mark, here's Mike Talk.
Oh, my goodness. I have my own liner now?
I've been waiting so long to use that.
Holy cow. What a start to the show. Thank you, Chris Vasquez, for that.
Because I had this made last week, even before, but it was a Tuesday. It was Double Shot Tuesday, so I couldn't use it. I was like, damn it.
I'm driving around in the car. I get last week, I guess, is when it was. It was after I was on the day after the Super Bowl with Mark and doing that show. And you cut a promo where my voice was in it with Mark's. We were talking about, something. And I had the kids in the car, and Dylan's like, Dad, is that you? Oh, yeah. I'm in a promo. How cool is that?
Yeah. It was, I think it was about tanking, actually.
Yeah.
Ironically.
I think it was. It is a wonderful Friday here on the Beat of Sports. I'm Mike Tuck, in for Marc Daniels, traveling with UCF basketball. He won't be able to join us because, unfortunately, their Big Bird's about to leave right now. I think his flight was set to take off a little before 10 o'clock, if I remember correctly. So we'll talk to Mark on Monday, though he will be part of the show then. Still on the road. I'll be back in this seat then. Wow, yeah, there's a lot to discuss. We spent a lot of time on the tanking, and so I want to do a little bit of a switch of gears just to sort of change the mood of the room. Specifically, the Mike Evans news, right? Jenna Lane, good friend, works at ESPN, Bucks reporter, said his agent, he's planning on coming back playing another season. One of certainly the bigger names that are out there. And Tampa Bay's got an interesting decision on their hands, right? A guy that is going to go into the Hall of Fame. I don't really think there's a whole lot of debate about that. May not be a first ballot Hall of Famer, but is going to go in the Hall of Fame based on his career success to this point. Would you have any argument with that?
Well, if Bill Belichick and if Bill Belichick's not a first ballot Hall of Famer, I don't know who is.
Well, there is that. But at some point, he's going to get in.
Yes, he will be a Hall of Famer.
And it's a tough decision to make. I still think he's got plenty left in the tank, and I don't think the price tag's going to be too crazy big that you couldn't look to do that. Now, they did draft Emeka Egbuka in the first round, probably to offset the Chris Godwin injury as much as it was to know that Mike Evans was going to be a free agent. And so they got to figure out, hey, we got to have a fallback plan just in case one doesn't work or the other ends up not being part of the big picture. And then it was, of course, Godwin that came back and Evans that got hurt a season ago. So he, for the first time in his career, did not hit 1,000 yards in a season. So first question, I guess, on the table for you is if you're Tampa, what do you do?
So we actually had Greg Allman on earlier this week to talk about that.
Right.
He does want to see Mike Evans start to finish play his career in Tampa Bay. At the same time, he's also not willing to give Mike Evans a blank check, which that I also agree with. You don't see a lot of guys starting and finishing their career in one city. Mike Evans doesn't look right in anything outside of a Tampa Bay Bucks uniform. That being said, an aging receiver coming off a major injury or several injuries.
Well, by aging, and we're all aging, Chris.
Yes.
You're aging. I'm aging. Bobby's aging. We're all aging. We're all getting, seconds older by the second.
But he's in his early 30s.
33 going to 34. Yeah.
Not getting any younger.
None of us are getting any.
Thank you, Tuck. Thank you, Tuck. Maybe a 2-year deal. See what he'd be willing to accept without insulting him.
Right.
But are you giving him a $20 million a year deal?
So that's the question, right? Is like, what is he worth on the market? Like, what will he demand in comparison to others that are out there that are of similar skill set?
I see a lot of interest from Buffalo. I've seen a lot of those rumors.
It's the same. Every team in the league should be interested in Mike Evans, frankly. Like, there's not a team in the league that should not. We're going to go to the usual suspects that are looking for wide receivers. I get that. But if you just sort of look and contrast it to what others in his age range have gotten, right? Mm-hmm. Right? So Calvin Ridley, when he signed his extension there in Tennessee, was 4 for 92. Okay. All right? So that's over $20 million a year. Stephon Diggs was 2 for 63. He got paid a lot on a short-term deal. Will get renegotiated this year. Mm-hmm. But that's a lot. Jacoby Myers just got 3 years, $60 million. He's turning 30. So he's a little bit younger, but in that same range of, all right, about $20 million per. Cooper Kupp, a great example kind of statistically and age-wise to what Mike Evans is, 3 for 45. All right.
I'm okay with something like that.
Right. So To me, I think that's totally all in the ballpark of what we'd be looking at there. I don't think he's quite to the DeAndre Hopkins, Keenan Allen stage, right? Although he's the same age as those guys. Nuke went from like getting that kind of a deal to 2 to 26 and then 1 to 5 last year, right? And Keenan Allen played for $8 million last year.
Yeah, they both fell off hardcore
contract, but Allen was still productive. But my point is, though, he's not there yet. He's better than those guys.
Yeah.
So I think bare minimum, you're looking at 15 to 25, depending on, 2 or 3 years. And I think that's totally fair. Like, if you're the Bucs, I would look to keep him. Like, that's going to make your offense. I want Baker Mayfield to have weapons.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm not fighting that if I'm Tampa.
And especially with how Emeka Egbuka started and then he fell off. Like, he just completely disappeared the second half of the season.
Yeah.
So you don't know if you can really trust him to take over that number 1 spot. Chris Godwin.
And he plays a different position, if we're being honest, too. There's not a whole lot of good X wide receivers in the league. And Mike Evans. Now, and here's the reality, too. Because of his age, like Romeo Doubs is probably the next best X wide receiver on the market. But he'll get a bigger deal because he's younger.
Yeah.
Right? So I guess that's what I'm saying is, like, if you could downgrade talent but have to pay more money, why would you do that? Even if he is younger, if you're Tampa, because you would probably still look to have a replacement. Jalen McMillan's not going to play that spot.
Right.
Godwin's not going to play that spot. So how are you going to facilitate that part of it? To me, it still makes a lot of sense to bring him back into the fold.
I would like to see Mike Evans stay in Tampa. They got to make the money work. I think Tampa's pretty strapped cash-wise, if I'm not mistaken.
They are. You can make numbers move. That's not an issue. If you're a good team, making the numbers move is a lot easier than if you're a bad team.
True.
Because usually you have good players that you don't mind pushing some money down or giving guarantees to because you want them there anyway.
But not only does this have to make sense for Tampa, does Mike Evans want to come back? Does he view Tampa Bay as a Super Bowl contender?
Well,
because I'm sure he wants to win at least one more, or at least have the ability to potentially win one more. And if he doesn't feel that Tampa is that team, maybe he does go to a team like Buffalo. Maybe he does feel that Houston going back home would be a better fit for him to potentially win a second Super Bowl.
That's a question he'd have to answer. I wouldn't say Tampa's like out of it. It's not like Tampa.
No.
I know they missed the playoffs, but they had won the division 3 years in a row previous.
He spent his entire career in Tampa Bay. I'm sure he loves the city. I'm sure his family loves the city.
Yeah.
But does he feel that Baker, that's the best place to win?
Yeah. I don't think it's all that hard of a decision. I don't think he's fallen off to the point where he's going to be cheap on the market, but I don't know that there's a reason if you're Tampa, you'd want to try to make that cheap.
If you're Tampa, what's your offer to Mike Evans?
I think if you look at what Kupp got and if you look at kind of what Jacoby Myers got, I think somewhere in that range. I would go up to 3. Of course, the third year, you may not have many guarantees on that signing bonus, et cetera. So that could be a wash year anyway. But I would have no problem. I would have no problem guaranteeing 20 and giving him a 3 for 60 kind of a deal, or a 3 for 55 or even 65. Kind of depends on how you want to wash the numbers around. Okay. I think that's totally within the ballpark. By the way, Tyreek Hill. No thoughts? I know it was earlier in the week. I haven't been here all week. We knew this was coming. Yeah. There's nobody who didn't know he wouldn't be available this offseason.
Is he going to be healthy at the start of the season? Probably not.
No.
How much of the season is he going to miss? Mm-hmm. Is he willing to take probably a veteran's minimum? No. He'll
get more than that, but I think you're smartly in the right area. Tyreek Hill is going to be a 1-year, under $10 million guy. Like,
if he gets a prove-it deal,
it will look a lot like Keenan Allen's deal, which was, I think, $2.5 million base or something like that, with a lot of incentives to get it up to over 8, like where you have to games played, certain statistical accumulation. And by the way, for the record, why is anyone bringing up Kansas City? Like, there's a reason other than money, Kansas City moved on from Tyreek. He has not been a, what would we say, a choir boy.
Right.
Since he got to Miami. So you're taking that on as well. So it is a 1-year deal, kind of a prove-it deal. It's going to be more than veterans minimum, I believe. But
to that point, is he then going to come back this upcoming season? Then that 1-year deal is going to be for that, handful of games?
I won't be surprised if he's a post-draft signing by somebody, that we do not see him get picked up when free agency starts.
And then is he going to be, I don't say smart enough, maybe aware enough to realize he's not going to get the kind of money he thinks he's worth coming off the injury that he's coming off of at his age? With the off-field issues?
Yeah. I mean, he'll push for more, but that's what the reality is with his age, with his injury, and with his past, and even the production dipping the last year and a half that he played, or year and 4 games that he played. And that's the reality for him right now. It's a big name that people have talked about all week, but I think you're looking at like a 1-year, $5 to $8 million deal. Honestly.
And then when does he come back?
I would think mid-season, give or take. He got hurt in week 4.
So he's coming
conservatively. If he ends up on a contender, which you kind of think he would, that'd be a team that would be willing to roll the dice. As a team that thinks they can, and it may not be the top of the list now. It might be a team that thinks they can elevate to that spot. But
then he'd have to play enough and show enough, to then garner that second contract.
You're not worried about that, though. I think. And again, different circumstance, but like Baltimore brought in Hopkins. All right, 1 year, $5 million. Right? Will they bring him back? I don't know. You're just kind of playing it to see what's left and see how it works out. But, you never know with that devastating of a knee injury.
Right.
Like, that's the thing. But if it is a contender, like you're not in a rush. You don't mind if he has to take till week 8 or even week 10 to come back, because you're kind of hoping to have him for the playoffs when you hope that you're going to be in position to have him make a difference at that point. All right. Bobby's in studio. We'll get to Bobby here shortly. We got Richard Hale coming up. No Mike O'Donnell. I am very bummed out because it is an amazing college basketball weekend. So I got some college basketball and a little bit of a connection with Matt Ishaba, the owner of the Phoenix Suns. We'll connect all those dots. It's the Beat of Sports on a fantastic Friday. We got our dad joke of the day.
It's almost like an unwritten rule that when you become a father, you become king of the bad dad jokes.
What is Forrest Gump's password? 1 Forrest 1.
Are you ready to laugh? We know at least one person is. Here's CB's dad joke of the day.
Oh, that's so great.
All right, and I do want to say, just because Tuck is in, we're still on the YouTube stream, so don't worry.
Oh, yeah, I should have promoted that. I was amazed by the rejoin. I forgot about that.
Yes, we are on the YouTube stream. I did see someone texting us. We are live, YouTube, Twitter. Go check us out, 96.9 The Game on YouTube, 96.9 Game on X or Twitter. Tuck, are you ready?
Fire away.
What do you call an alligator who uses GPS?
What do you call a gator that uses GPS? Please tell.
Why, Tuck? Of course, that's a navigator.
That's cute. That's one of your better efforts in a while. That is one of your better efforts. I may or may not use that with my kids later.
Yeah. Like, all right, it's your teacher's
Like, you're not
Welcome back to the Beat of Sports. Filling in for Marc Daniels, here's Mike Tuck.
It's 10 o'clock, WYGM Orlando, WJRR HD2 Cocoa Beach, FM 96.9 The Game, AM 740 Orlando sports leader. Chris Vasquez here, and Bobby from Boegans is in the house. What's up, man?
Not much. How you doing?
I am good. Good and bad. As we were talking about it during the break, we're talking about disasters in the in his case, the workplace, and me at my house with my swimming pool right now. So Bobby's still waiting to get the good news.
I'm still waiting for the good news.
He's got a lot of
We
bad
keep breaking
stories,
stuff,
but nothing that ends with a happy note, I
we
guess.
got beer, so
But-
there's our happy note.
But you told me you're doing a lot of work over there at the building and updating and expanding.
Yeah, we're full underway for our expansion in Castleberry. The wall is actually coming down next week. We're still not going to have a grand reopening yet. We're still going through the rest of the construction. Going to be doing it in stages, but we're putting in a full kitchen. Going to over double the space of the tap room. So I am very much stoked on that. So there's my good news.
That's great, man. That's awesome. Full kitchen. That'll be sweet. You're going to get CV behind there cooking?
You don't want me
No,
cooking.
I was saying that's probably a bad
You
idea.
want me slinging
Well, I'm
beers?
slinging some beers.
Yeah, you want me slinging beers. You don't want me cooking. Although I'm getting better at cooking, I will say. But no, you don't want me.
Not ready for that yet.
No, not for a bunch of people. No.
All
right.
right, we'll get you there.
So what do we got here today? Those are some fancy purple cans right there.
So today is actually our Boegans 11th anniversary. And
Congratulations.
Thank you. We're extremely stoked. I'm happy to be here. To celebrate that, so I figured why not bring our 7-layer. I got the camera there. It's our 7-layer milk stout. This is our most award-winning beer, and actually, it's one of entire Florida's most award-winning beer ever. Now, just picked up another one, the best of Florida. So we're extremely stoked for that. This is our year-round milk stout. It's our beer to give people that, kind of like our motto when we say recrafting perceptions. We change the way people think about beer and the way they approach it. And for some people that say, "Oh, I don't really like dark beers," like stop thinking about what you think about dark beers and just think about the flavor. If you like coffee, if you like chocolate, if you like vanilla flavors, like this is your go-to beer.
And something that's unique. Oh, talked over the
I can get that now. Sorry.
Something that's unique about the 7-layer milk stout is typically when you think of stouts, you think that big body that's going to kind of like bog you down. You don't want to drink it over the summer. The 7-layer, you still get that full flavor, but you're not going to feel like bogged down. You can drink it in the summer. You can drink it in the winter. It's good year round.
Yeah, it's full body, but yeah, we call it sessionable. It's just over 5%, but it's still gonna have that full flavor, but not completely fill you up. So you're gonna have that big body, but it's not gonna be like those imperial stouts, those barrel aged ones where they're sippers, and yeah, you want it like nice cold weather by the fire or something.
Yeah.
This is a good year round beer, and again, we're in Florida. I still haven't figured it out. We're crazy about our stouts. That's just Florida in general. So yeah, it's worked for us. It's been around since the beginning. It's been here I've been brewing this for over 11 years. And it's a reason why it's been a staple in our tap room.
And I know you are making some adjustments to it. You're adding peanut butter and bringing out the peanut butter 7-layer milk stout. How does the brewing process, when you add peanut butter, how does it change?
So on this one, actually, yeah, I just left the brew house and Coachy and Jason were over there and they were actually pumping the beer off of the peanuts back into the fermenter as we speak. So it's almost ready. For that one, my biggest issue with peanut butter is you want to make sure there's a lot of fatty oils in there. You want to make sure you still have a head retention. If you get a lot of oils in the beer, it could break down that little head retention you can kind of see here if you're watching the live stream. So with that, like we roast the peanuts, we help bring some of those oils out, and then just kind of get that pure roasted peanut flavor in there is what we're looking for.
When you add these different kind of flavors, like a peanut butter or some tropical fruits or pineapple, strawberries, whatever it is, how do you know how much to add to where you're not taking away from the flavor of the beer? Or how do you make sure if you're adding multiple to not overpower one another?
I mean, a lot of it was trial and error. Talking about putting in the kitchen and learning to cook. You know, I've been in the restaurant industry for over 20 years. Just kind of learning how to use flavors was a good starting base point. And then once you got to brewing beer and adding those flavors in, you start to gauge, maybe raspberry has this much flavor, but strawberry is going to take a little bit more to get to that same level of perception. So it starts with trial and error. And then, now we have a good starting point for a lot of different a lot of different stuff. There's a lot of things that we've done and a lot of different ingredients we've used. So we take that knowledge and kind of blend it to where we want. But one of the biggest things we look at with our beers is we like a good balance. Like you said, you don't want it to be overpowering. If we're doing the peanut butter, I want you to taste some of the beer behind that too. If we're doing a fruited ale, I want you to taste some of the beer as well as a blend of that. So, like again, trial and error and experience, and just figuring out what that beer to taste like and making it happen.
So you mentioned that you guys are opening up a kitchen. What would pair well? You're drinking a 7-layer stout at the new remodeled Castleberry location.
Yeah.
What are you ordering with the 7-layer stout?
So in general, as far as like a pairing with this beer as a whole, I mean, obviously desserts are a no-brainer. I love like a cheesecake with like a raspberry drizzle on top of that, pairing that with the 7-layer. Anything dessert peanut butter wise is amazing. Also too, if you're doing like dark meats and steaks and stuff like that, we've done some beer dinners where we've marinated filet mignon in the 7-layer and then paired it together, and it's phenomenal.
Wow. That sounds phenomenal.
I have a question in regards to, you said, this is your most award-winning beer, the 7-layer stout. So when you achieve something like that with something like this, what becomes of your mindset as far as either building off of that or trying to replicate that in something completely different?
Yeah. So we look at it different ways. Like when I approach a beer, we're not necessarily brewing it just to get accolades and
right,
win
it just
awards
happened.
and stuff.
But when you have it, you obviously feel like, well, nailed
we
it.
stick with it.
Yeah, right. Of course, it's not going away.
We keep making that one. So yeah, our goal is just mainly to brew the best possible beer we can. And when we look at a different style, we approach it in the same aspect of what's best for the beer. Let's make it the best we can and do what we know how to do. But yeah, when something works, then we kind of can expand on that. Like we take this one, we can make imperial versions of that and do different variants, add in peanut butter. We've done fruited versions and stuff like that. So we definitely play to it as well. If it's got that notoriety and people are telling us this is what we want, then we're going to keep bringing it.
Do you, real quick, we are, again, on X or Twitter and YouTube. If you want to show them the can real quick and what the beer looks like, you can go to the stream, check it out. Again, 7-layer milk stout from Bowegan's Beer Company. See Bobby's beautiful
here.
See Bobby's beautiful beard up there as well. You mentioned today's 11 years. What do you got going on today?
Yeah, so we're doing a little celebration at the tap room. Not a gigantic street party like we normally do. We weren't able to pull that off with the construction yet, but we're all going to be over there at the tap room in Castleberry today. At 6:30, I'm doing a toast. We're handing out some 407s for the first 48 people that show up there. Doing some cake. We have 2 new releases. One is going to be our Flip Flop Felon. This is our craft malt liquor I've been talking about.
I'm excited for it.
In our true fashion, labels did not show up in time, which is completely fine. So we're going to be serving the cans out of brown paper bags as you show the malt liquor. We're doing a secret. We haven't announced it yet, but we have a new draft release. It's called No, That Is the Reason, which is our West Coast Pilsner. Got packaged this morning as well as I was leaving. So we're going to bring some of that over to the tap room. We're going to be hanging out with the guys over there and having a good time.
I'll be there at 6:30. I might be there a little bit earlier.
Me too.
Bobby, appreciate you as always swinging in. You popped the top on that bad boy, and I'm sure everyone listening to the radio looked at their watch and said, "Is it 5 o'clock yet?" Like, my goodness, ready for the weekend already.
Not to beat down the dead horse, but it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
It is.
It's 5
it
o'clock
absolutely
somewhere.
is. I appreciate you coming in, man.
I appreciate you guys.
Richard Hale actually joined Marc Daniels later yesterday and recorded the next segment. That's coming your way next.
Time now for this week's Sports Law segment with Richard Hale.
We talk sports and law. Richard Hale is our expert. He joins us on these Fridays to chat about a variety of things. Got a whole bunch of stories today, so I want to dive into it. Good morning, Richard. How are you?
Doing well, Mark. How are you?
I'm good. Let's start with a couple things, and maybe we kind of run through these because we're going to do a little bit more than we normal, maybe 5 stories. Jaden Rashada, the Gators, their former coach, Billy Napier, one of their largest donors, they've agreed over that NIL suit. Terms not released. Just your thoughts. I think you felt it was going to head this way as you begin discovery. They're like, I don't know if we want this to be out there publicly. How do you think this got resolved?
Yeah, you had asked me to speculate on maybe what the possible resolution was here and what terms they agreed to. I think it comes down to 2 things. Number one, evidence. What type of evidence did they have of agreements that may or may not have been reached? Was it via text messages, emails, phone calls, eyewitness statements? It really comes down to what they were going to be able to prove. And then again, a question regarding damages. So the suit, obviously, Napier being an employee of the state of Florida, there's going to be some sovereign immunity issues there that's going to limit the recovery of Rashada in this particular case. And so I would think that the lawyers, when they all sat down, said, what can we prove? And then at the end of the day, what are damages going to be in terms of what we can show a jury and ask for in return? The suit was for the entire amount that they claimed that Rashada had passed up by not going to Miami and taking the Florida deal. I think it was north of $11 million. I certainly don't think the case settled for that. Was there a lesser amount? Most likely, did Rashada have an obligation under whatever contract they agreed to mitigate his damages? And by that, I mean, if the deal with Florida didn't work out, did he need to go on, play for another team? Clearly, he's done that now at, I think, 2 or 3 different colleges. And so does that factor into the ultimate amount that they agreed upon? Suffice it to say, I think the deal gets done, probably in the $500,000 to $1 million range, and we'll see. Obviously, those terms aren't going to be disclosed. That's just what my gut tells me.
Let me just let's use a number to visualize. Let's say it was $1 million. Does the judge determine how much everybody's got to pay him? Because he went after everybody. Napier, the university, the donor. Do they each have to pay an equal cut? Does the judge assign how much each pays, or how does that work?
Yeah, so these, in this particular instance, all the parties would sit down at what's called a mediation conference. The judge would not be involved in that. And so at the mediation, there would be a discussion about, who's on the hook for how much. So if I'm Billy Napier and I know that I'm an employee of the state, and so, the most I could pay is $200,000, either I walk in that day and say, look, I'm going to put my 200 on the table if that gets it done, or I'm going to put 100 on the table. You, big time booster, you're going to put 800 on the table, and then this other employee of the state of Florida who may have made some promises, he's going to throw another 100 in. That gets us to the $1 million figure that Rashada wants to get the deal done. Or, we can extrapolate those numbers out, however. But, in terms of a judge is never going to see this until the case is finished, and the judge is simply dismissing the matter because the parties reached the settlement agreement. So more likely than not, cooler heads here prevailed. The lawyers were able to negotiate a deal with the help of a mediator. Rashada was happy with the outcome, or, seemingly happy with the outcome. Napier and his side were seemingly happy with the outcome, and then we move on.
Let me move on to something else. In college, Kansas State parts ways with Jerome Tang, their basketball coach. He's owed $18+ million, but the school says, hey, language in his contract says he can't say negative things about us, the program. It's damaging. We think he did, therefore we're firing with cause. This probably is a smart move, Kansas State, to at least get a negotiated price down. I don't think they have a case to owe him nothing. Do you?
I don't know that they have a case to owe him nothing, but I thought the language in his particular contract was important. We'll get to that in a minute. To set the stage here, obviously a university firing him for cause means that they are not on the hook for the remainder of his contract. If you've done something to disparage the university or its players or paint the university in a bad light, you can certainly be fired for cause, and the university would be absolved from paying the remainder of your contract. However, if you are fired without cause, just because the team's not playing well, or the university's just disappointed in the decision that they made in hiring you, well, then the university would be on the hook for the remainder of the contract. So what you see at times is the university being proactive, saying, yes, certainly you were fired for cause. Now, come back to the language of this particular contract, which says the coach shall not engage in behavior, actions, or activities that subject the university to public disrepute, embarrassment, ridicule, or scandal. Now, why is that important? I think it's important because here in the days of NIL, if I say something that I think as a coach that may paint the players in an ill light, or may suggest that the university is not getting value for the money that it paid these particular players, does that fall under this category of bringing disrepute, embarrassment, ridicule, or scandal to the school? I think there's an argument there to be made that it certainly does. If we're saying things like, this guy's not going to be here next year, he doesn't deserve to wear the jersey, he's not making, he's not holding up his end of the bargain for all the NIL deal money that he got, then I think arguably, certainly, that falls under this clause in the contract that would say, hey, coach, you've got to be a cheerleader of the university and of the decisions that we're making. You can't ridicule or second guess the decisions that we've made by suggesting that somebody's not going to be here next year. Look, the university, through its NIL package, has put money together to support this student athlete and to get them on board. You now saying, hey, they're not going to be here next year, that's flying in the face of what the university is trying to do, and in turn is embarrassing this university. So I think it's a weaker argument to be made, but I certainly think that Kansas State's going to fight this. Like you said, hey, let's put the first shot over the bow and then see what the fallout is. In this particular instance, the fallout's going to be, we're probably going to get sued, right? Certainly Tang's going to go back now and sue them and say that he wasn't fired for cause. But this language makes that conversation a bit more interesting than maybe it's been in the past.
Interesting story involving IMG Academy, where the school or the academy is being fined because apparently they took what is believed to be cartel money to pay for tuition. I think people know IMG for its sports, and there's a tuition that students pay to go there. This is really interesting because it takes us down a path of knowing where the money comes from and all that stuff. What's your thoughts about this IMG story?
Yeah, certainly going to be an increased obligation now on institutions such as IMG that are taking in these huge amounts of money for scholarship or for tuition from these individuals, to make sure that they're doing a further evaluation. So by way of background, earlier this week, the U.S. Department of the Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control, so the moniker there is OFAC, announced they're fining IMG $1.72 million for accepting tuition fees for two students whose parents have been linked to Mexican drug cartels. So what they're saying essentially is there should have been a safeguard process in place to make sure that where this money was coming from was not linked to any individuals who appear on this list that OFAC has of people that you can't accept money from. And so IMG says, look, we admit that at the time that these tuition payments were being accepted, we did not have that safeguard in place, and so we missed it. This wasn't intentional. It wasn't that we knew where the money was coming from and turned a blind eye to it. We just didn't have the safeguard in place to catch it. So, moving forward, is an institution like IMG going to now be held accountable under that standard? I think the answer is yes. At an increased cost, I think the answer is yes there too, so that this doesn't happen in the future.
Let's get to a major story that stretches beyond the sports world. Buffalo Wild Wings is claiming victory in a court. There was a dispute about boneless wings. Are they actually wings? Is it a chicken nugget? A judge has ruled on this. Buffalo Wild Wings are celebrating their victory. Your thoughts on the boneless wings versus actual wings versus chicken nugget?
Well, as a lawyer, sometimes you get these cases that make you chuckle. This certainly was one. Man files suit against Buffalo Wild Wings, saying that the the boneless wing is deceptive, right? Because it's not in fact a boneless wing; it's just a glorified chicken nugget. And I think that the judge's opinion here, it's a fun read for anybody out there who wants to go and find it. He likens the analogy to someone claiming that they thought they might be eating a chicken finger, when in fact we know it's just a breaded white meat. It's not an actual chicken finger. But the path that the judge takes us down in terms of the semantics of it all and playing with the English language a little bit is a lot of fun. But yes, I mean, let's celebrate. Maybe you and I think I heard you ask me if you could take me to Wild Wings earlier in the segment. So let's do that. I think it'd be great, and we can try out the boneless wings for ourselves.
It is funny sometimes, and I can only imagine when judges are like, "I'm getting this case, okay, I guess." Right? I mean,
Well, you like the judge that has fun with it too, right?
Yeah.
He could have just issued an opinion that denied the request and left it at that. But the fact that he went into a lengthy discussion about it means that he has a great sense of humor. So I like that.
all right. Thanks, Richard. Have a great week, and I appreciate it.
Take care, bud.
Richard Hales, our sports law expert. Hale and Jacobson is the firm. Chris, could you ever envision yourself getting so angry? Like, you know what? This isn't it. I want to go to court. I want to argue over this.
I don't think there's something that could make me do that.
Are you a boneless wing guy?
I am, yes.
Okay. Oh, I think
I'm
we
not a
talked
big
about
messy
this.
eater kind
Yeah,
of
you're
guy.
not a messy eater guy. Yeah.
But it's not going to bother me that they call it boneless wings and not chicken tenders. I'm certainly not going to sue over it.
I've told this story before, many, many years ago. I believe UCF is playing basketball. We're either at East Carolina or maybe it's Gardner Webb or someplace. And I was walking to like a CVS or something to buy something. And the McDonald's in the shopping center had the sign that said, "Chicken nuggets now made with real white meat," which made me think, what was it before?
Sometimes just don't put everything out there.
Well, like I told you, I'm not looking how you're making it, okay? Just put it in the bag, okay? And I'll put my hand back, and you put the bag in my hand sometimes, right? Yeah. Mike Tuck comes back. He's going to talk some basketball with Mike O'Donnell when the Friday edition of the Beat of Sports continues next.
Ready for more sports talk? Of course you are. In for Marc Daniels, here's Mike Tuck.
Beat Sports FM 96.9 The Game and AM 740. Thanks for tuning in today to the radio show and online on our stream, which is up at YouTube. Just search 96.9 The Game. Mike Tuck with Chris Vasquez. You can say hi to our smiling faces up there. Mark's traveling as the Knights are in Utah for a few days now. They'll take on the Utes tomorrow night, and then they'll take on the Cougs on Tuesday. So I'm doing the bookend of the weekend here on Friday and on Monday for Mark. Mike O'Donnell would normally join us at this time, but unfortunately he is on a flight himself traveling for college hoops this weekend. I did not get where, but maybe you'll find Mike O'Donnell on your TV screen somewhere this weekend. It is an incredible weekend. So I do want to do a little bit of college basketball news just because some of it's out there. And I'm going to connect it to what is happening in the NBA in regards to anti-tanking. All right. So watch me connect dots here if you can. All right. So we'll start with, first of all, terrible news. Never like to see good players, great players go down and not be able to finish the season. Texas Tech has had a little bit of an up and down season, but they're a really, really good team with some really, really impressive wins. They lost their star JT Toppin earlier this week. He is out for the rest of the season with a torn ACL, so that is horrible news for them. They'll be a tournament team, but they will not be what they are without his forcefulness on the interior. As a lefty, just is able to, really control the glass. A little unorthodox in his style. Reminds me a little bit of Thaddeus Young back in the day. He was instrumental in their upset win against Arizona over the weekend, but he has now lost for the rest of the season. So that sucks there. Florida Gators are red hot right now. I know we're kind of searching for UCF to find some wins to stamp their NCAA tournament invite, and that might not be as easy as you thought it might be a few weeks ago, but they ideally at least will win tomorrow. They got to try to win some of these games they're supposed to win, like they were supposed to win against West Virginia over the weekend and did not, to give themselves a shot. Of course, winning at BYU, that's another feather in your cap. You win those games, you can afford to lose more games. So they've already won some of those games. They need to win more of those types of games to make sure, even in a crowded Big 12, that they find their way in to the NCAA tournament. The Gators are red hot, though, like as I said, won 6 in a row and are creeping up the seed line. There's a decent chance Florida could be, when it's all said and done, even potentially contending for a number 2 seed in the NCAA tournament is what it looks like at this hour. The 1 seeds is a very crowded deck, which is where I want to take you right now, because coming up this weekend for just the 4th time, or excuse me, it will be the 5th time, but 4 times previous ever, the top 4 teams in America by ranking will be playing on the same weekend, on the same day. This is only the 5th time that's ever happened. Okay.
That's crazy to think about.
It happened way back in 1992. In 1992, it was national champion Duke minus Christian Laettner. They had beaten Michigan the year previous for the national title. Michigan, who was number 1 in the country that year, their second year with Chris Webber and company, went to Duke and lost to Grant Hill and Bobby Hurley and that crew. That was a number 1 versus number 4 matchup. Duke was number 4. And number 2 versus number 3 was Kansas and North Carolina. And as it turns out, 3 of those 4 teams would end up advancing to the Final Four that year. It would be Carolina knocking off Kansas and then defeating Michigan in the very famous Chris Webber timeout game for the national championship. Duke got beat by Lamont Murray and Jason Kidd in California, freshman phenom Jason Kidd, in the second round in the NCAA tournament that year. So 3 out of the 4, just for the record, ended up getting all the way to the Final Four when that happened in the regular season. It happened in the 2019 season as well at the Champions Classic, where it was Kansas, Duke, Michigan State, and Kentucky, the top 4 teams all playing each other as they've been doing every year. That was the Zion season, or not the Zion season. That was, that was Zion season was the season before that. It was the season after that, where we didn't get to see the end of the season because it was the 2019 into 2020. We had the pandemic and we did not get an NCAA tournament. The other 2 times, Chris, we're in the Final Four. Okay? We had it back in 2008. Remember Mario Chalmers? The shot to save Kansas after Memphis and Derrick Rose, John Calipari missed a bunch of free throws down the stretch. They make one free throw, they're the national champions. But it was not meant to be. All 4 1 seeds advanced that year, so we had all the 4 teams playing in that Final Four. Kansas won the national title. And then the other time was a long time ago, last March.
Wow.
In the Final Four, all 4 number 1 seeds advanced there. Florida over Auburn. Houston rallied to beat Duke, and then the Gators and Walter Clayton would end up cutting down the nets to play for the national championship. So just the 5th time ever, because this weekend it is number 1 Michigan playing number 3 Duke. And by the way, that is for number 1 overall because number 2 Houston already lost this week, right? So we know the winner of that game will be number 1 at this point next week and probably have a leg up to be the number 1 overall seed. They're going to play a neutral site game in Washington, D.C., and then it'll be number 4 Arizona traveling to number 2 Houston in the other matchup. So something to keep in mind. Really good success stories. By the way, for the record, to go back, that year we didn't get to finish. All of those teams were still ranked in the top 8. They would not have been the top 4 going into the NCAA tournament that year, but they were all going to be in contention to maybe advance into the Final Four that year. The Florida Gators won the national title last year. The first time Florida ever got to the national title game was in the year 2000 when they played Mateen Cleaves and Mo Pete and Michigan State, which also was the last time the Big Ten won a national championship, which is insane to think about. With a conference as strong as the Big Ten that it has been since 2000. You take away the 2020 year, we didn't get to finish. So 25 years without a national champion. And they have, certainly with Michigan, a team that has a great chance to win it this year. But that Michigan State team that won it all, the Flintstones, featured a guy who was a walk-on, 3rd guard on the team, named Matt Ishbia, who is now the owner of the Phoenix Suns and a multi-billionaire. He joined his pop's startup company. He was one of 12 employees when he joined it, and it grew to the largest housing thing in America, worth a ton of money. He bought the Phoenix Suns, and it is the former Michigan State Spartan, who is a big donor, as you might imagine, to Michigan State Athletics. He went off ahead of the NBA meetings the other day in regards to tanking. And I quote, I wish there was audio of this, but there is not. He wrote this. "This is ridiculous. Tanking is losing behavior done by losers." That is a hell of a line, man. That is a hell of a line. Purposefully losing is something nobody should want to be associated with. Embarrassing for the league and for the organizations. And the talk about this quote unquote strategy is ridiculous. If you're a bad team, you get a good pick. That makes sense. But purposely shutting down players and purposely losing games, it is a disgrace and it impacts the integrity of the whole league. So in the NBA, not in response necessarily to that, but certainly, and I know Mark Daniels talked about this at the start of the week coming off the All-Star break, I think there were some good moments for the All-Star break and the All-Star game itself, but certainly not a good look when you have a situation where a large part of the conversation has to do with how do we rectify this situation. So the NBA yesterday, Chris, and Kelly and I talked about this on the bridge. I want to get your thoughts now. Came up or at least forwarded some ideas that they've talked about in anti-tanking that they will address in the offseason. Okay? First of those thoughts is first-round draft picks can be protected for only top 4 or top 14 selections. In other words, eliminating a top 8 protection or a top 10 protection where you get teams that are sort of in the middle with no chance to make the playoffs, i.e. Utah this year, that would entertain sitting down players during a game like they did with Lauri Markkanen and Jaren Jackson against the Magic and the Heat in back-to-back games.
That frustrates. It's such a slap in the face to fans too. That frustrates me so much. If teams are willing to trade away their top whatever pick, top 4, we'll say top 14 pick, that should be on them.
Right.
It doesn't.
You were willing to take the risk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's dumb idea. Next.
Lottery odds freeze at the trade deadline or a later date.
Horrible. You talked about it on the bridge. What's to stop teams from tanking at the beginning of the season? What's to stop teams from just essentially wasting a year of everyone's time to try and get that better draft pick? Horrible.
No longer allowing a team to pick in the top 4 in consecutive years or after consecutive bottom 3 finishes. In other words, if you continue to suck, nope, you're not allowed to be in the lottery. Or if you win the lottery 2 years in a row, you can't do that.
We're moving, I think, in the right direction, but at the same time, maybe your draft pick doesn't hit. Maybe he's not ready for the big time yet. Maybe he needs a year to develop, 2 years to develop. Maybe injuries happen. So many things can pop up to where it's not, and Mark Daniels always says life's not fair, but to penalize a team because they picked in the top 3 one year and they're still bad the next year, if they're trying, doesn't make sense to penalize that team still.
Right. Teams can't pick in the top 4 after making the conference finals.
Again, that's going to be on the team that's in the top 4 who traded that pick away to the team that was in the conference finals. Are you just going to null and void the trade?
Right.
Like, what are we going to do
Or
here?
if it's like a situation like Indiana this year, which feels like a direct shot at Indiana this year. They went to the finals, Game 7 a year ago. Halliburton obviously has missed the entire season because he tore his Achilles in Game 7 or Game 6 of the – no, I guess it was Game 7 of the NBA Finals in the beginning there. Like, why? Like, why would we feel like we need to punish that team? They haven't, like, tanked the season on purpose. They honestly have had a lot of injuries, even besides Halliburton all year long. They're starting to massage some of that now as the season's gone along, but I don't think we need to worry about that instance, frankly. A lottery odds all allocated based on 2-year records. In other words, what your record is the last 2 seasons as opposed to the current one.
No. Again, so now you're just prolonging the tanking.
Right.
So now instead of, oh, well, if we tank this year, maybe we'll have the better odds to try and get the number 1 pick this year. Oh, well, now we got to tank for 2 years to get the better odds.
Right.
No.
Lottery extended to include all play-in teams?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't solve tanking.
Yeah.
It doesn't solve tanking.
Yeah, because you don't look at like the Magic or the Suns or the Warriors as teams that are like trying to manipulate this system. That are fighting to be in the playoffs.
That doesn't solve anything. It just makes it that much more difficult for the bottom dwelling teams to get the better pick.
And then the one, honestly, I've been pushing for a number of years, and they did obviously make it so it is, you get a 14% chance to, if you're in the top 3, right? And it's even across the board to the top 3. That's still not strong odds, but flatten the odds altogether so that, the team that is the first team out has the same odds of getting the number 1 overall pick as the team that had the worst record, so that there is no need to whatsoever tank, because if you miss the playoffs, you miss the playoffs, and you have equal odds to access to get the first pick.
What if we reward the team who just misses out on the playoffs? So they don't make the play-in game, but they're right there.
I think the fear there would be that a team would look at it and say, we have no shot to win it. Should we not make the playoffs to enhance our team for next season? I wouldn't want to fight that fight.
But that's kind of like finagling, I guess. Because you want the bottom teams to be better. You want them to just miss out.
But let me bring it back to like the big picture in all this. It's not about like who deserves what, or we want good teams to come back. We're not fighting for parity. We're not trying, none of that really matters in the reason we're having this conversation. What they've done addresses all of those things already. Like, those things are fine. What we're trying to address, and it's bigger than tanking, is what I said earlier. It's bigger than tanking. It's not just what Indiana and Utah and Sacramento and all the teams that are really at the top of the lottery odds are attempting to do. Washington, right? It's not about them. It's about the whole league in getting NBA players to play in NBA games. It is about, hey, a paying customer paying for a streaming service or paying for a ticket, and there's a lot of both, right? Want to see the best players on these teams play, period. It doesn't matter if it's Oklahoma City or Sacramento. I want to see Sabonis play as much as I want to see Shea play, is kind of the idea behind this. That's it. That's what we're trying to do, is to make sure the teams are actually trying to win. And there's always going to be a little bit of, like, I get it. Like, guy comes off, tweaks an ankle. Should we rest him or not? Like, that's we're never going to be completely absent of that, as we are in every sport, frankly. Like baseball, football, like they all have it where you're like, hey, you're err on the side of caution. If we lose this week, but we got to think big picture. And usually it's big picture of winning, not big picture and losing, which is
but again, so what is the solution to stop these teams from sitting their best players to try and improve their draft odds?
Well,
what's the solution?
I think flattening the odds is the obvious thing that would take away the manipulation of the bottom for sure, because then there's no incentive if you're Washington to rest anybody. Washington has no chance to make the playoffs. So if Trae Young, who's going to get checked out in a week, by the way, is able to play, he should play. Like, he's being paid to play. There's no incentive for Washington to say, you know what, because they want him to be part of next year's roster anyway. So play, you're healthy, play. There's not like, hey, Kyrie Irving, like, if you can play, get out there and play, man. We're not trying to protect anything, because we're going to have equal odds whether we finish, 6th from the bottom or 13th from the bottom. Like, there's no. So that is the most obvious thing to do. But the other thing I would do, almost as a reverse of penalizing those that aren't trying to win, is I said almost a relegation form of, hey, if you're in the top 3, or if you will, the bottom 3 of the league, you do not get to play in the lottery. That's your punishment for either not trying to win or not caring about winning, is then you don't get to take part in it. You don't get to be in that. You'll have your pick, but it'll be a pick that's either in the middle of the lottery or the back of the lottery. You decide, league. I don't care where the NBA puts them. It doesn't have to be like, hey, you don't get a first round pick, or you pick at the end of the first round. I'm not going that far with it.
But what if there's a team that, again, they're just that bad?
Then they're just that bad, man. Get better. Spend money. It's no different than the conversation that's going on baseball right now.
So what about a team
with salary caps? Like,
so okay,
it's not the Dodgers' fault that the Pirates and the Marlins aren't spending money.
What about a team like Indiana? You just brought them up.
Yeah.
They are essentially missing one player who took them to the finals last year, and now they're just that bad. We're going to penalize them for.
No, it's not even penalizing them. You're thinking of it as a penalty. It's not. It's saying, hey, like, you'll pick in somewhere in the lottery, but you're not going to have access to the first pick because you weren't good enough to earn that right this year. And by the way, again, Pascal Siakam's missed a bunch of games and his personal reasons, and I don't know what the personal reasons are, but like, he's legitimately their best player and he's not playing. Right? I mean, I don't know how many people are buying a ticket to see him play, but if we're going to fight the fight, every team has those guys.
I hate everything about tanking. I think it's between the tanking, the style of play in the NBA, the fact that they care more about social media hits and clicks and getting views on social media, and then what college basketball has become with Darren Peterson. The NBA is hurting right now. I think basketball as a whole is hurting right now. There's a lot that needs to be fixed. And hopefully, at least the discussion of trying to fix tanking puts us in the right direction. But there's a lot of work that needs to be done.
More on the Darren Peterson situation, and plus updates from around the globe, in the Olympics, in the NBA, and the NFL, and more coming up next in the news.
Let's really do the news.
Yes.
Now it is time to do the news.
But now it's time for the news.
Just after 11 o'clock, WYGM Orlando, WJRR HD2 Cocoa Beach, FM 96.9 The Game, AM 740, online and streaming at 969thegame.com. And check us out on YouTube as well. We got the live stream up, 969thegame.com. Chris Vasquez, Mike Tuck, a news underway today, and there is quite a bit of it. Let's start with the Olympics, where yesterday got a little bit hairy for what was looking like one of the more dominant women's athletic teams ever for Team USA, completely destroying the competition in Italy. But Canada wanted nothing to do with it. They led 1-0 going into the third period. In fact, just a couple of minutes to play, United States is able to tie things up at 1 to force overtime. They go 3 versus 3 in overtime, which is absolutely insane, the space they have on the ice when you do that. And then this happened.
The outlet pass for Keller, a defenseman. Nice move. Cuts to the net. Score! The overtime hero, the United States. Prince Gold and on.
Kenny Albert on the call for Team USA. They collect the gold medals. The men will take their crack at playing for a gold medal today. They'll take on Slovakia later at 3:10. Canada and Finland are underway right now in the other semifinal, currently scoreless in that one.
Not gonna lie, that call just gave me goosebumps.
Yeah. No, Kenny Albert does a great job.
Phenomenal.
Does a great job. Orlando Magic winners last night. They hit a franchise record. Yes, this Orlando Magic team in 2026 hit a franchise record 27 threes. Of course, they would do it on the West Coast, where half of you, or more than half of you, probably didn't even stay up to watch it. 27 threes in a 131-94 demolition of the Sacramento Kings. They will take on the Phoenix Suns tomorrow night as they continue their West Coast road trip to start the second half of the season. Spring training is underway today. Yes. Baseball getting started today. The Yankees and Orioles will be the first up in a couple hours from right now. White Sox and Cubs in the 3 o'clock hour, joined by 4 games total after that. So whatever the math is, 8 other teams in action today as spring training gets underway. Lane Johnson will return next year for the Philadelphia Eagles. Their right tackle, one of the best in the business, who had many injuries this past season, has said that he will be back in playing next season for the Eagles. That's good news if you're an Eagles fan. The Indiana Bears, not really, but they might be playing in Northwest Indiana. That has moved forward. They have voted yes. We would welcome building a stadium here for the Chicago Bears. We talked about it on the bridge earlier, CV. I don't know if you've talked about this earlier in the week or not with Mark, but what are your thoughts on potentially moving out of the state, albeit not all that far out of the state, for the Chicago Bears?
So I did bring it up in On the Mark, Off the Mark, because Iowa was also trying to get involved with luring the Chicago Bears out of Illinois. So you got to battle the eyes for the Chicago Bears. I told Mark, the Bears playing in anywhere outside of Chicago in anything that's not Soldier Field just doesn't seem right. And I get that the NFL wants to push for a lot of these northern teams that deal with the elements to build a dome. You can host the Super Bowls there. Soldier Field needs to stay around. Just like Lambeau Field needs to stay around. It's historic. And I get, as we move forward, we evolve, this and that. But, I mean, can you imagine the Chicago Bears being played in Hammond, Indiana? The Bears playing in Hammond?
I could, because they'll still be the Chicago Bears. It'll be a beautiful stadium. I imagine the San Francisco 49ers not playing in San Francisco, but instead playing in Santa Clara.
And also, do you think with Indiana already having a football team that they wouldn't want to have the Chicago Bears named something with either Hammond or Indiana?
No, they're not selling the team. We're not moving the team from like Oakland to Vegas. This isn't what's happening here. This is not a renaming. It's crossing a state line. No different than it's the New York Giants and the New York Jets, even though they play in New Jersey. It's not going to be the end of the world. If they can't figure it out in Illinois, then they'll move about 25 miles south there and they'll play Northwest Indiana. By the way, for the record, I said this earlier, Santa Clara is 53 miles away from San Francisco. It is more than twice as far away The Dolphins play in Miami Gardens. That ain't Miami. It's 28 miles from Miami, from where they play in Miami Gardens. You can't see South Beach from there.
If you're Bears ownership and you've tried hard, you've tried to make a deal work for a new stadium in Chicago, in Illinois.
Right.
Nothing gets done, but a new city lures you away. You wouldn't want to change the name?
No,
Why?
because it's your point. It's synonymous with Chicago, and you're still pulling from Chicago.
But you're not in Chicago anymore.
People cross state lines all the time that are in places where you have to cross state lines for work. Happens all the time.
I get that. But again, you've tried as the ownership of the Chicago Bears to make it work, to find a new stadium, to get funding. And the city of Chicago said, nah. But another city, another state is willing to lure you away, regardless of how far away it is from the original location. It's a different state. And I get you just mentioned the Jets and the Giants and how far away that the San Francisco 49ers play and the Miami Dolphins play.
And we could keep going. There are others just like
the Cowboys don't play in Dallas. They play in Arlington.
Correct. Which is what, about 45 minutes south?
But the point is, ownership tried to make it work in Chicago. City wasn't willing to budge. Another city is willing to. You wouldn't want to pay homage to this new city that's willing to show you the love?
No, and they don't need it either. They'll just reap the financial benefit of having it there.
Okay.
They're good with that. They're clearly good with that. They just voted. Was it 26-0 or something like that? There was a unanimous vote. Yes, let's do it. Sign us up. If it results in a great new stadium for the Bears, I don't think the Bears players are going to mind. I don't know what the tax situation is between Illinois and Indiana. Who cares? Not my position to worry. Not affecting me one way or the other. That's our news. Okay. We have our week in the review and our studs and our duds on the way next.
Missed anything during the week?
What?
We've got you covered.
Yeah! Here we go!
Let's take a look back at the week that was. It's the Beat of Sports Week in Review with Marc Daniels.
Beat of Sports Week in Review. That is where Chuck and I will go through the week that was on the Beat of Sports with Marc Daniels and myself and react to the clips that I pulled. Real quick, a little bit of breaking news. I don't know if you saw this, Tuck. Indiana bumping up Curt Cignetti's salary to $13.2 million after
Talked about
winning
it.
the national championship.
They had to assure him a top 3 salary in the sport, or he could leave, wipe his hands of it clean, and they weren't going to let him do that. I can promise you that. So, yes, that was news that was going to happen.
So, nice little bump for Curt
He's
Cignetti.
earned it, man.
Yes.
Man, if someone's earned it, it's him.
Yes. On Monday, Mark was discussing the NBA All-Star Game. There's been a lot of discussion. The All-Star Game wasn't exactly the greatest, but it did give us, maybe a little bit of effort. But on Monday, Mark talked about the All-Star Game.
Some people look at the NBA of these guys don't play, they don't care. That's bad. Whatever percentage of your fan base is. I guess where you and I will disagree is I don't think it's as great as the numbers you think, but it's bad. And you have to figure that out. The problem is, how do you figure out the right solutions that the players join you with that? I don't know. But wasn't a great weekend, I thought, for Adam Silver. And as far as the All-Star weekend itself, like I said, it's not for me, but I can't imagine the NBA league office high-fiving going, man, that Saturday really seemed to work. And then if it's like, well, now what do we do? I don't know. I don't know if you can salvage something because you're not really going to convince these star players, even though, like we said last week, if Anthony Edwards, who turned out to be if he's the guy that said, hey, if I'm the face of the league, I'm not going to shy away from it. You want to be the face, volunteer next year for the dunk contest. Go out of your way to say, I view it as my duty to be an NBA player, to be a superstar, and I want to be the face of the league. I'll do it.
I think it's a lot on a different plane, like college athletics, that we complain about a lot of things that need fixing and need adjusting, and a lot's come at and happened really fast there. But when the games happen, we enjoyed them. We love them. Postseason was magnificent. The NBA is kind of in a similar circumstance. That's why I said it's not just about the tanking. The tanking, to me, is almost a minor issue. It's getting the stars motivated. When the perception starts to become the reality of do these guys care or not, you have an issue. And you have that in the dunk contest. Nobody wants to take part in it. You have it in the All-Star game where we're literally questioning the athletes about their effort in it. And we've been doing it for a number of years. It's not a one-off kind of a thing. It wasn't bad. Like they had some good moments in it. That's great. But it's going to take more than that to convince us otherwise. When the regular season, we see the same thing. The playoffs will be great. April, March, or excuse me, I'm going backwards. April, May, June. Oops, the calendar doesn't go that way. April, May will be fine. Chris, I'll love it. The guys, we know we're going to be playing hard, but it's the perceptions that continue to persist that are an issue.
I don't want to spend too much time on this because we got a lot to get to.
Yes.
Why do you think nobody wants to participate in the dunk contest?
For the same reason nobody wants to play hard in the All-Star game.
You don't want to show off your elite athletic abilities. This will be a time to market yourself, brand yourself. You could make so much money off the court with your brand. What are you scared of?
I don't know. Embarrassment, getting shown up. It's like the idea of they're throwing out there, do a 1-on-1, 2-on-2 kind of a tournament that'd be great. But again, are you going to get the best player? If you get, that we're getting Anthony Edwards versus, Tyrese Halliburton or whatever, like in a one-on, great. Yeah. I'll sign me up for that. But if it's going to end up being the guy off the bench in Miami versus the guy off the bench in Orlando, no one's going to care.
By the way, the dunk contest was god-awful. God-awful. On Tuesday, Greg Allman of Fox Sports discussed the future of one Mike Evans.
There's legit 3 options in play, and I think him playing elsewhere is probably the smallest of the 3. I don't know if that's like a 50, 30, 20 type split or what. I think there's still a good chance he's back. I think, there definitely felt like a chance he would retire. To see him late in the season, he was almost annoyed that fans thought he might be done. So I think there's still something in him that doesn't want to go out injured and limited, not getting 1,000 yards on a non-playoff team. But I do think he wants to make sure if he comes back that he's confident all those things can be better. So whether that's, Bucks don't have a ton of cap space and have plenty of talent at receiver already, but Mike is one of those Derek Brooks types where you almost want to see them pay more than they should just to let him have a career that's all in one city, start to finish. But again, that can't be a blank check. That can't be, more than what he was making on his last contract.
It actually would be way more complicated if Mike Evans was 30. Because if he was 30, he'd be looking at a deal of maybe 4 years, $120 million, as opposed to where he is right now, where I think it's much more on the Cooper Kupp, Jacoby Myers level. You're talking somewhere between $15 and $25 million, some guarantees in there. A very affordable cost for a player who means a lot to the franchise and actually still can play at a high level. Last year, it didn't end well because of the injuries. I get it. But to me, it's a no-brainer. You want him back in that locker room.
Yeah. But again, to Greg's point, it can't be a blank check.
No, I don't think it's going to have to be because he's not getting a blank check from anybody. You can throw out the Buffaloes and the Chiefs and everyone that's good, right, that needs it. They're not going to give him a check worth $30 million a year. That'd be crazy. They can't afford to do that either. So I don't think you're actually going to have to compete all that hard to keep him there.
I do like what you had brought up earlier to start the show. 3 years, maybe 60, 65,
right.
Between 55 and 65 million.
Cooper Kupp got 3 for 45. That to me is kind of like a floor for where Mike Evans should be.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right. On Wednesday from the Sports Business Journal, Ben Portnoy talking about the Jaden Rashada settlement and if deals in college, if they really mean anything, if they're enforceable.
We're in a little bit of a transition time, right? We went from a world where college athletes can't be paid to one where they are being paid, but they're not totally like employees of the school or the team or whatever. It's not totally professionalized. And we're sort of in this middle ground. And so you've got these contracts that exist, mostly revenue sharing contracts with the schools that are being signed that are effectively marketing deals, right? Like school are, there's sort of two things. There's revenue sharing agreements and there's NIL agreements, and both are effectively marketing deals. And that athletes are signing over their name, image, and likeness to schools to then be used for marketing campaigns, matched with brands, things like that. What that has amounted to is a bunch of contracts that are not really employment contracts like you would think that people have in all sorts of forms or fashions, companies, whatever, media, whatever.
They're going to have to come up
to hopefully be applied as such. I think that's why you're seeing a lot of these issues pop up.
Yeah, I think they're going to have to come up with more clever ways until they become employees, which they should. That's probably the direction we need to move, because I think the number one issue we all find as just fans, I think it's a lot less to do with what they're getting paid and more with hey, they're actually just holding us hostage with 1 year. Hey, you better raise, or I'm going to find somewhere else to go. When we get nomads that are playing 1 year, and having 6 or 7 year careers at 6 or 7 different schools, that part that loophole needs to be closed if we're going to eliminate that.
Yeah, I think it's TJ Finley, whose career backup in college, he's on his 7th school in 7 years. That shouldn't be allowed. Guys playing in their 9th year of college football should not be allowed. But again, we've given college athletes so much power that we're scared to upset them with the fear that they might leave or that they'll sue the school.
Mm-hmm.
And it's ridiculous. And I know Mark says my anger is more, it should be more towards the adults in the room, as you like to say.
100% it should be.
But
it's just taking the kids this long to fight back and realize that these aren't hard and fast rules we've been operating by all these years.
Then on Thursday, professor of economics from Southern Utah University, David Berry, discussed the financial part of tanking in the NBA.
There's a lot of attraction that GMs and coaches have towards the tanking strategy because you don't have to be good, you have to be bad, and it's easier to do that. It doesn't really work. I don't think it's that detrimental to the NBA. It affects the teams at the bottom of the rankings. That's okay. It doesn't really hurt the health of the NBA. If you want to completely get rid of it, just get rid of the draft. Just don't have a draft. You don't need a draft.
You don't need it, but I think you agree. The NBA is not going to get rid of it because it's a marketing event for them. Just like the NFL doesn't need a draft either.
Yeah, that's what it became, right? It started off as a way of controlling wages.
Yeah.
But then it became a marketing thing. So that's true. So what you could do, if you're thinking outside the box, is replace the draft with a rookie free agent night. You could just say, look, we're gonna have these contracts announced on a specific night. Who signed with who?
Also known as National Signing Day that we have in college athletics. I don't think they'll go that route. It's certainly Stan Van Gundy, I mentioned earlier, threw that out to Jerry O'Neal and me more than a decade ago. We were talking about it, and he was a proponent of that kind of an idea. I don't think also that I think the point has been made, but I want to make sure we're clear. Tanking, you're right, doesn't actually hurt the league in totality. It really isn't hurting that bad teams are not playing players. They're going to be bad regardless. Sacramento was probably losing to Orlando regardless of who played last night because they're a bad team. The problem is, again, great players who are not playing in NBA games. There are huge television contracts. Amazon, ESPN, NBC, they're not happy when the stars are not in the games playing for television purposes. No different than you're not happy when you show up with a ticket in your hand and all the money you spent to go to an NBA game and they're not there playing either. That's the bigger problem here. Truthfully, is you're alienating your fan base, and it's like a double bird to fans when the teams don't care, which is why it's so great that an owner now has spoken up and said, we have to stop this nonsense.
Yeah, again, I keep saying, like, we, the consumer, we, the customer, it's like we get shafted at every turn.
100%.
I mean, it's ridiculous. And then you want to jack up ticket prices. You want us to pay for parking, concessions, merchandise. Why? We're not seeing the best players on our team. Why would we go and support you?
Right.
Makes no sense. That's your week in review.
All right.
Stud of the week.
What do you got, CV?
We just played the clip. I'm going to play it again. Shout out U.S. women's hockey. Gold medal, baby.
The outlet pass for Keller, a defenseman. Nice move. Comes to the net. Score! The overtime hero. United States. Rich gold on.
How'd that taste, Canada? The U.S. women win their first gold medal in hockey, the first one since 2018. So good for the women.
That is awesome. My stud of the week is Phoenix Suns owner, former Michigan State Spartan walk-on guard. He did get 1 minute in the national title game when they beat Florida. Believe it or not, he was on the court for that game and got a shot up, no less, in what he said, because it needs to come from the top. The same way we talk about college athletics, it needs to come from the top. The players can only do so much when Jaren Jackson and Lauri Markkanen are told to sit on the bench. So when Matt Ishbia, said in regards to losing behavior done by losers, the art of tanking, someone needed to say it. The owners need to be responsible for the product that we're paying for. So I'm happy someone stood up and said it. And I'm glad someone woke Adam Silver from his coma as well to get him on this, because it's something that needs to be addressed.
Now we just need to get more owners, because clearly you have guys like the owner of the Utah Jazz is completely fine with tanking.
Right. Or at least he's, allowing for it to happen.
Stud of the week.
Darren Peterson. Darren Peterson. 100%.
I should have asked you what your dud of the week is.
I mean,
I went the same direction.
It's absolutely ridiculous. We tout him so much.
Mm-hmm.
We give him so much praise for being this elite talent who's ready for the NBA. And if it wasn't for the rule that says you have to play 1 year in college, he would have already been in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guess what? You had to go to college. You're getting paid a lot of money to play. And I brought this up with Mark. I mean, how much of this nonsense are teams going to put up with before they say, you know what? You're a great talent. I'm not spending this much money for you to dictate when you're going to play, or have your dad and agent dictate how much you play. We paid you to play. If you're not hurt, if you're not sick, whatever, get your ass on the court. Darren Peterson's my dud of the week.
He is my dud of the week as well. We have our Monday preview coming up next, and I will explain something that I think Darren Peterson and his representation needs to hear and understand, because they're doing it the wrong way. I'll explain why next.
The weekend is coming, and we've already seen the script. From the locker room drama to the mind-boggling calls, we're giving you the weekend spoilers on a Friday. Here's what will we be talking about Monday.
Mike Tucking for Marc Daniels. Marc's on the road with UCF. They'll take on Utah tomorrow night and then BYU next Tuesday. So I'll be back in this seat on Monday as well. Marc will join us then. Chris Vasquez with us. And he was talking about Darren Peterson as his dud of the week, the Kansas guard, many project to be the number 1 overall pick in the upcoming NBA draft. An unbelievable talent. You watch him, you can even see, you squint your eyes, like he kind of looks a little like Kobe. Like you do see that kind of ability within the kid. And
Don't
I think
insult Kobe.
Huh?
Don't insult Kobe.
I'm just saying, you squint your eyes, right? And you can see what scouts are seeing. But here's the reality of the situation. He's getting bad advice. We are more than willing to draft injured players. Don't be afraid of getting hurt. Joel Embiid got drafted number 1 overall, number 3 overall, knowing he wasn't going to even be available his rookie year. Michael Porter Jr. got drafted, barely playing and injured. Greg Oden got drafted, didn't play at all his rookie year because of an injury that was pre-existing. Nerlens Noel, the same thing, drafted number 3 overall. We're not afraid of you getting hurt. We're afraid that you're not going to try, that you're going to quit, that you're going to tap out when times get hard. That's the problem we're having with Darren Peterson is, can we look you in the eyes and expect you to be that kind of competitor to lead us to an NBA championship? You cannot, in good faith, draft a guy that high if you don't believe he can be one of your, at bare minimum, 2 best players somewhere down the road. And you'd be looking at him hoping he's your best player. He is being led down the wrong road with this situation right now at Kansas. It has been ongoing, not saying that he hasn't been hurt at any point, but when he's tapping out of games, and Bill Self has done his very best to control his frustration with the situation, this is going to be an ongoing story. It was this week. It's going to continue to be. This kid needs to get out there and play through it. It does not matter if you get hurt. You're going to be drafted high regardless. He needs to figure it out. It's going to be a topic next week, and it will be a topic moving forward as we'll be figuring out who maybe is the favorite in March Madness with this unbelievable weekend ahead. Speaking ahead, it's going to be a great weekend. I'm sure it will be a great weekend for Kurt and Maxine's on Shine. Kurt, it has been a little while since I've been in on a Friday, so I haven't spoken to you, but I hope all is well with you in life, sir.
Well, I thank you kindly, my good friend. It is indeed Mr. Tuck, and always a pleasure to get a chance to get on the airways with you and go back and forth a little bit, my friend. It is beautiful over at Maxine's right now, and this gorgeous weather right now, right?
Warmed up a little bit today.
It did. Well, and everybody, that's where I got to warn everybody. If you've been living under a rock, hey, get ready. We're going to set record highs this weekend. So we're looking at the upper 80s, maybe even hitting the low 90s right here. Over, maybe Saturday, Sunday, going to be crazy. So it's definitely, Mike, it is definitely, we will allow, we're not overly fancy or anything like that. We're not fancy pants. So in this case, though, definitely on the weekends, if you want to rock those shorts and you're going to come out and hang out in the beautiful outdoor garden patio area, fully permissible. We ain't going to give you no lowbrow action on that. It'll be really good and fully acceptable. No, it's always acceptable. However you feel comfortable, you be you and knowing life is good in the neighborhood. Yeah. Maxine's.
Yeah. And certainly you don't have to worry about sitting outside with a heavy jacket on or a sweatshirt on. Like it's a good weekend to come out and sit outside, right?
It really is. It really is. And if you want to sit directly in the sun, we'll set up some sun tanning areas for you. I'm not so sure that I have
Keep
anybody
your shirts on, though, people.
Yeah. And I'm not sure I'm going to have anybody out there with palm fronds and fanning you while you're doing it. But maybe for an upcharge, we can work that out for you.
What do you got cooking over there, man?
Oh, brother. Well, we got lots of good things cooking. Hey, a couple of things, Mike, if I could, I just want to say thank you to everybody that came out for Valentine's week with us last week. Thank you for the trust and celebrating with us and what's, one of the most hallowed of all of holidays. And when you're out with the people that you love and, your significant other and family and friends. So thanks for making it a truly successful week. It was a great time with everybody. And we look forward to having you anytime for a date night, which, by the way, that leads me into on Thursday nights, Mike, hey, if you're getting out and you get out with the missus or getting out with a coworker, that kind of thing, every Thursday night, everybody, want to remind you, 2 entrees and a bottle of wine, $50. That's right. 2 of our classic creations. So like our skillet lasagna, our chicken parmesan going on in there, our chicken Maxine's with that beautiful mozzarella cream sauce and mushrooms all mixed in with it. seafood. We even got a vegetarian dish on there, 2 entrees and a bottle of wine every Thursday night. Last night it was rocking. We had about 75 people come out and take advantage of that. And just say, it's a little way to say thank you to everybody. Take a little out of that back pocket, but making sure that we're full of flavors that you can savor while you're enjoying that special deal. So thanks and all that. Live music is back, everybody. Live music is back on Saturday nights and Sundays. Mike, we've been missing it for a while. We just kind of had to hang loose for a little bit. But man, that vibe in which you can thrive, and that ain't no jive. As you get on with your glide, when you step up inside of Maxine's on Shine, you're gonna feel mighty fine. This Saturday night, Steve Crone is back in the house. He's gonna do like a little old classic rock and roll, kind of mix it up into even the 80s. So any of you Pixies fans out there, he's got a few tunes along that line. He's gonna mix in. Always make sure that the levels are comfortable for great conversation. We ain't gonna blow you away with the musicians. It's gonna be nice and easy. And then if you ain't into music, we've got the beautiful outdoor garden patio area for you. So Steve will be here Saturday night. Justin Kangaroo coming back in for Rejuvenation Brunch. Right now we got our Rejuvenation Brunch going on. Mike, we always love having people come out. It's a great way to start your day, and particularly on a Friday. If you guys start your weekend early, hey, everybody, forget about going to lunch. Make those changes right now and come see us for brunch. Because when you get a big old fat daddy mimosa or Bloody Mary or sangria to go along with that slow cooked braised brisket that we sit in the oven for nearly 24 hours, and we're going to put that over cheesy polenta for you, a little jalapeno cilantro aioli and potatoes over the top, or maybe our chicken and waffles, that beautiful mirepoix based French countryside style gravy there. And oh man, the Belgian waffles with the vanilla in it, maybe a fat daddy lobster omelet. Absolutely gorgeous for you. Come on out, see us for brunch Friday, Saturday, or Sunday from 10 to 3. And on Fridays and Saturdays, we got a little intermission. So it's like a little early happy hour going on for you in between brunch and dinner service. Now, if I'm going to get on with it about what's the features for this weekend, which I know, hopefully you guys are all anxious to hear, go ahead and get those napkins out and get ready to dab that little saliva that's going to come out of the corner of your mouth as I describe these for you. Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Love it.
Everybody, you've been forewarned. Here we go. Beautiful, gorgeous, 1.5 to 2 inch thick bone-in veal chop. My people, let me tell you, our chef, who is one of the founding partners of Crest Chop House, prides himself on every cut of meat that he personally takes care of in that kitchen. And he oversees the team. So it is an immaculate success of deliciousness on that plate. We're talking about 1.5, 2 inch thick. We're going to do a beautiful, thick mushroom bordelaise sauce. You're going to see that sitting right over top of that meat on that bone. Oh my goodness, you're going to slice into that thing and be like, it's like butter, man. I'm going right to it. I don't even need a steak knife for this thing. It is so gorgeous. Now, for the fresh catch, right now is the best time to get some mahi. We are fully vetted that we are locally and freshly netted, my friends. Mahi, mad time for the year right now off the coast of Cape Canaveral and the eastern coast. So we're getting that stuff about as fresh as you possibly can. Going to be bringing that in. Going to do up a nice little 6-ounce fillet that we're cutting off for you. Man, when these sides of mahi come in, I can imagine they were just in the water like 2 days ago. It's absolutely beautiful stuff. We're going to put a citrus beurre blanc over top of that. So you just take it in a little white wine butter sauce. You know, it just be a nice little compliment to that nice muscled, but yet delicious and delicate flesh of that mahi. Absolutely beautiful little sweet potato mash with that and asparagus. The soup tonight, going to be New England clam chowder. Clam chowder, everybody. And I'm going to tell you right now, the richness and texture of that, we put all little bits in. And of course, you got to put bacon in it if it's New England style. Yeah, you're going to have that in there. Wonderful way to get going as we're about to hit into just a couple more days of cool weather and mix it up with our fresh seafood. It's going to be a wonderful way to start off your meal. And then if you want to finish off, we're doing a New York style cheesecake, and Chef Kim is putting a beautiful apple crumble over top of it. So just think about like maybe a little bit of apple pie and bread crumbles and whatnot. She was in there and putting it all together today as I was leaving to head out of the restaurant for a little bit. It is absolutely glorious. Mix that with our bevy of beautiful, tasty beverages that we got. We've got one of the most extensive wines by the glass programs in all of Orlando. That was my gig way back in the day. I used to write wine lists for all kinds of restaurants and help people pairing and that kind of thing. Whether you're a neophyte or you are an expert on wine, you're going to have a great selection there. Great cocktails. We've got the award-winning best bartender in Orlando, Julie Waxman, is behind the bar there. So she's got all kinds of seasonal cocktails for you, local beers out the yin-yang for you. So if you're a beer fan, you're going to enjoy that. And then yesterday we had the pleasure of having in Miss Megan Keeley from Little Saints. Little Saints, she was on Shark Tank not too long ago, putting on the line her spirit-free spirits. So for those of you that don't want to have a drink, or maybe the last drink of the night, you want to have something that doesn't have alcohol in it. Oh man, she was in yesterday. We've made up about 5 different mocktails for you. So you want an old fashioned without the liquor? Well, a lot of times you have those things and they fall flat on their faces. This is a mushroom based beverage that she's doing. No psychedelics included, unfortunately. But man, but the flavors are there. You're going to think that you're seeing things. You're going to be tasting things that you shouldn't taste with the deliciousness of this brand. So we got you covered. If you don't want to have alcohol, we're going to have beautiful options for you all the way around. So got all that stuff going on, Mike. I know you got to get onto some other things, but if I could real quick, remind everybody, the easiest way to get a reservation is to go online to maxinesonshawn.com. Right there on that little reservations tab, it's going to take you to Open Table. You can look for your times and tables that are available. You can look if you want to sit outside, inside, that sort of thing. But if they aren't there, that's because they're taken. So what's there is legitimate. You're going to know where your seat is with us. You can check out our menus. You can check out our entertainment lineups, the different promotions, maybe buy somebody a gift certificate. If you have any further questions, though, then you can also reach out to us at 407-674-6841. That's 407-674-6841, located in the heart of downtown Orlando and Colonial Town South, knowing that life is good in the neighborhood. And Mike, we look forward to having them out. And brother, instead of just talking to you on the phone, I'm looking forward to seeing you in the restaurant. I had Mr. Vasquez in last weekend with his wife and little daughter on the Valentine's morning. We had a stellar time. It was great to have you out, Chris, and the family. And we look forward to seeing you guys out.
Amazing. We'll make that happen, Kurt, man. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you real soon, okay?
Very good, sir. Cheers to you and all the listeners.
Kurt
Have a
from
great day.
Maxine's on Shine. Marc Daniels was way wrong about something he said earlier in the week. I'm going to tell you what it was next.
Time for the latest news, gossip, trends, and off-the-wall stories. Trends. Ooh,
That's the craziest thing I ever heard.
It is right now a 2-0 lead for Finland against Canada. Actually, 2-1. Gosh, as soon as I say it, they scored. They scored 5:40 to go in the second period. Finland leads Canada 2-1. The Americans will play Slovakia later. Winners move on to the gold medal match in men's hockey at the Olympics. Major League Baseball, opening day for spring training. Chris Bassett had some really interesting comments I didn't have time to get to today, but maybe next Monday we will discuss in regards to a future of a salary cap in baseball. Marc Daniels said something earlier this week. He was talking with UCV, and I could not believe that he said it. And I know Mark is a stickler for the Hall of Fame, but he could not be more wrong when he suggested that somehow Mike Trout may not be a Hall of Famer. Mike Trout was no worse than the fifth best player in baseball for 9 consecutive years. If that's not a Hall of Famer, I don't know what is.
But
I get it. We didn't get
regular season.
We didn't get the
guy.
outcome we wanted, but there's no question he's a Hall of Famer.
And then are we gonna take into account injuries with his career?
We don't even need to look at the rest of the career. I mean, honestly,
he's a Hall of Famer right now.
It becomes a wash. If he retired after his first 10 years, 9 straight after his rookie year, he was a Hall of Famer then. This is all just unfortunate what's happened after it. Like, he is that good. We're not having a conversation about Mike Trout, Marc Daniels. We'll talk about it on Monday. Thank you, CV, for your hard work today. I'll be back on Monday. Mark's traveling with UCF. Have a great weekend.